The box said for Ivy, but Ivy was still missing. Without a return address or fingerprints, it held only 4 items, each more unsettling than the last. A bruised Polaroid, a torn track ribbon, a dog-eared copy of Jane Eyre, and a USB drive labeled Play. She vanished 43 days ago after taking a quiet shortcut through the woods. No one saw her. Now this box, personal, deliberate, and meant only for her, raises one terrifying question. Who sent it, and why? This wasn't just a clue left behind. It was a message, and whoever sent it has more planned for Ivy. Ashridge Lake, Vermont, a small town veiled in fog, where towering trees and thick woods create a silence that stretches for miles. It's a place where life is slow, and everyone seems to know everyone's business. At least they think they do. Ivy Brenner had spent all 17 years of her life in this town. She wasn't lonely, but she wasn't outgoing either. Always behind the lens of her camera or training on the track, Ivy was the epitome of focus, smart, driven, and always playing it safe. In a town that valued small-town risks, Ivy never made any. But perhaps that was the problem. Her quiet, careful world was one few truly understood. On April 3rd, after track practice, Ivy took a shortcut home through Ridge Path, a narrow hidden trail rarely used deep in the woods. It was a route locals knew, but few ventured down. She was last seen at 5:41 p.m. And then, nothing. 2 days later, Ivy's phone and backpack were found under an old rail bridge by the river. They were carefully placed, not dropped in a rush. No signs of panic or struggle. Detective Lorna Hale looked over the scene, uneasy. Nothing out of place, but everything about it felt wrong. Like someone wanted us to find her stuff, but not her. The town rallied. Posters covered every street lamp, and vigils lit up the cold nights. But weeks passed, and Ivy didn't return. No calls, no sightings, no messages. And the question began to grow heavier. How does someone like Ivy vanish? Then 43 days later, something strange happened. On June 15th, a warm, quiet morning settled over Ashridge Lake. It was the kind of day when everything felt ordinary, until it wasn't. As the mail carrier approached the Brenner's driveway, something caught his eye. A cardboard box sitting on their front porch. The box had no stamp or return address, just a bold black label stamped on the top. Box 341. And beneath it, 2 bold block letters scrawled across one side. For Ivy, do not open unless you are her. The handwriting was sharp and deliberate, carefully crafted, as if the sender knew exactly who they were addressing. There was no rush, no mistake in the writing. It felt calculated. Inside the box there were 4 items. First, a Polaroid of Ivy. Her face bruised, eyes closed, but undeniably Ivy. She was still alive. Second, part of her track ribbon, torn as if ripped off mid-race. Third, a worn copy of Jane Eyre, pages dog-eared and marked, with one chapter highlighted, the one where Jane is locked away in the Red Room. Finally, a USB drive, labeled simply, Play. Kara Brenner, Ivy's mother, clutched the box, her voice trembling. It felt like she was still alive, like she was trying to tell us she was still fighting. But who sent this? Was it her or someone else? There were no fingerprints or DNA, only pieces of Ivy's world, as if someone knew her too well, as if they expected her to return, or perhaps didn't want her to be forgotten. Inside the USB drive was a 4-minute audio recording. As soon as the file played, the room grew unnervingly still. Ivy's voice, faint but unmistakable, barely rose above a whisper. He doesn't talk. He simply watches. He says I remind him of Jane. I read. He feeds me. When I don't, he doesn't. There was a brief pause, a soft crackle in the background. I don't know where I am, but I hear water. Always water. Her voice was faint but unmistakable. It was Ivy. Forensics confirmed the recording had been made only 3 days before the package arrived at the Brenner's home. The acoustics suggested she was in a big empty space, perhaps concrete. In the background, the faint but unmistakable sound of dripping water echoed through the recording. Detective Hale immediately made the connection to Jane Eyre. a book Ivy had often referenced. In that story, Jane is locked in the Red Room, isolated and alone. The parallels were too strong to ignore. The police turned to Ivy's English teacher, Mr. Clark, who had always praised Ivy's deep understanding of the book. But when they investigated further, they discovered Mr. Clark had been in Chicago at a teaching seminar during Ivy's disappearance. His alibi was solid, and another lead turned cold. Still, the mystery deepened. The package contained too many personal items, too many links to Ivy's life. It felt planned. But by whom? And why? Ivy's voice was the only clue that she was still fighting, still trying to communicate. The question was no longer where she had gone, but who was behind these messages, and why were they so desperate to find her? The next lead took investigators to Ezra Kipp, a local loner who had once worked as a janitor at the high school. Ezra had always been present at Ivy's track meets, camera in hand, but his presence was far from typical. People noticed him watching Ivy more closely than a regular fan, like someone tracking her every move. The police brought him in for questioning and searched his cabin on the outskirts of town. They found hundreds of photographs, abandoned buildings, decaying structures, and forgotten spaces, but none of Ivy. His journals were filled with disturbing sketches of empty places. While this didn't link him to Ivy's disappearance, it was enough to raise suspicion. Local journalist Logan Quinn noted, "It's classic scapegoat psychology. Towns love a villain, but Ezra was odd, not criminal." After clearing Ezra as a suspect, the investigation hit a standstill. But Detective Hale, while reviewing Ivy's Instagram, noticed something strange. In one photo, Ivy stood by a window, her reflection visible in the glass. In the corner of that reflection was a shadowy figure, someone who appeared to be watching her. Using facial recognition software, they ran the image. The match came back. Kyle Brenner, Ivy's older brother. The case took a dark and unexpected turn when investigators made a startling discovery at the Ashridge post office. Box 341, the same label found on the mysterious package left at the Brenner's porch, had actually been a rented P.O. box. It had been opened 5 days before Ivy disappeared, but the name listed on the rental form wasn't hers. It was her brother's, Kyle Brenner. Kyle had been living in Boston, estranged from the family after a quiet mental health crisis 2 years earlier. His name immediately shifted the focus of the investigation. Detectives tracked him down to a lakeside Airbnb just outside town. What they found inside blurred the line between obsession and grief. Scattered across the room were torn pages from Jane Eyre, Polaroids of dimly lit, decaying interiors, and a single reading chair, bolted to the floor, eerily positioned to face a full-length mirror. On a side table sat one of Ivy's old disposable cameras. There was no sign of Ivy, but the room felt curated, like a shrine built from fragments of her world, an unsettling homage, both intimate and unnerving. Kyle was arrested without resistance. During questioning, he remained unsettlingly calm. He insisted Ivy was alive, that she had asked him to help her vanish, to erase herself from the world. "She said she couldn't breathe in that town," Kyle said in a recorded interview. "This is what she wanted, to be unread." His story didn't add up. There were gaps, contradictions, moments of silence too long to ignore. But what became clear was this. Whatever happened to Ivy wasn't just a disappearance. It was part of something deeper, stranger, a plan perhaps, or a shared descent into something neither of them fully controlled. Everything led to Kyle. The box was shipped near his Boston apartment, the USB connected to his laptop. The bruised Polaroid matched Ivy's disappearance timeline. In his Airbnb, detectives found Ivy's camera, torn Jane Eyre pages, and a chair bolted to the floor, facing a mirror. In the basement, her bloodied track uniform and shoes lay hidden. A final Polaroid showed Ivy holding a sign. "Tell them the truth." Kyle's control trapped Ivy. Her disappearance wasn't escape from town, it was escape from him. Weeks later, a new Polaroid arrived. Unbruised Ivy, holding a recent newspaper, eyes locked on the camera. The sender unknown. The staged evidence and new photo suggested a dark game. Kyle's twisted plan to silence her. No body, no confession. Just a vanished girl and a brother desperate to bury the truth. Box 341 stays sealed, a locked story of control, fear, and escape. So the case stayed open. Ivy's trail, blurred, broken, deliberate. Was she hiding, running, or rewriting the ending herself? Was the girl in the photo Ivy, or someone made to look like her? No answers or closure, just the weight of what's missing. And maybe that's the point. If you have any thoughts or theories, drop a comment below. The truth may be closer than we think. Until next time, this Mind Unfolded.